So good day everyone, I am Dindi Castillo together with Charlotte Di Maelig, and today we're going to discuss about safe medication use for older adults. For the objectives, we're going to describe the unique aspect of drug pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics in older people, and then list the measure to promote safe drug use, describe the alternative to medication, and identify proper uses and risks associated with common drug groups used with older adults. So first is yung effect of aging on medication use. So medication use in older adults present special challenges because of the number of drugs commonly used, age-related changes that affect drug pharmacokinetics and pharmacotherapeutic, or an increase for adverse reactions. So yun nga. So yung older adults kasi, yung kanilang yung medicine is nag-act differently because their body process is more slower. Kumbaga, kapag tumatanda tayo, yung mga medicine hindi agad napaprocess basta-basta ng ating katawan as mabagal siya ma-process. Kaya doon nagkakaroon ng risk for more adverse or side effects. Next is yung tinatawag nating polypharmacy. When we say polypharmacy, ito yung pag-take ng medicine ng mga older adults ng higit sa 5, o kumbaga maramihan, 'di ba? Pag poly, maramihan. So the high prevalence of health condition in the older population causes this group to use large number and variety of medication. So yun nga. So itong mga drugs na nakalista dito, ito yung mga karaniwang drugs na ginagamit ng mga matanda. Meron daw cardiovascular agents, antihypertensive, analgesic, anti-arthritic agents, sedative, tranquilizers, laxative, and ansative. So yung mga drugs nito is pwede siya mag-cause ng confusion, dizziness, falls, and fluid and electrolyte imbalances that threaten the people's quality of life. So, furthermore, kapag tinik siya ng sabay-sabay, ang mga drug na ito is pwede mag-interact sa each other and pwede mag-cause ng serious adverse effects. Next is pag-usapan naman natin yung altered pharmacokinetics. Diba yung pharmacokinetics is natakil na natin sa pharmacology dati. So when we say pharmacokinetics is how the drugs acts on the body. So yung pharmacokinetics refers siya sa admin na tinatawag natin. So yun yung absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion. So punta tayo muna sa absorption. So sa absorption, generally, older people have fewer problem in the area of drug absorption than with distribution, metabolism, and excretion. So sa absorption, list na problema siya sa older adults. So merong variety factor that can alter drug absorption, kagaya ng age-related changes. So nagkakaroon ng decrease in intracellular fluid and increased gastric pH, nagkakaroon ng decreased gastric blood flow and motility, reduced cardiac output and circulation, and slower metabolism can slow the drug absorption. Next is yung route administration. So, yung mga drug na binibigay intramuscularly and subcutaneously or rectally ay hindi siya mabilis ma-absorb sa matatanda. Ang mas mabilis sa kanila is yung mas efficient sa kanila is yung inhaled, applied topically, and instilled IV. And next is yung concentration and solubility of drug. Drug that's highly soluble, kagaya ng aqueous solution, and in higher concentration are absorbed with greater speed than less soluble concentrated drugs. So mas mabilis yung ma-absorb ng katawan yung na matatanda yung highly soluble drugs. Next is yung disease and symptom. Conditions such as diabetes mellitus and hyperkalemia can increase the absorption of drugs, whereas pain and mucosal edema will slow the absorption. Next, punta naman tayo sa distribution. So mahirap doon ma-predict certainly how drug distribution will differ among the older adults, kasi nagkakaroon ng changes in circulation, nerve permeability, body temperature, tissue structure that can modify this process. Pero for example, yung matabang tao or yung maraming adipose tissue. So there are times na yung mga drugs is na-store siya sa adipose tissue rather than sa mag-distribute siya sa body. So yun nga, nakalagay sa example, basahin nyo na lang. And then next is yung decreased cardiac output can raise the plasma level of drugs while reducing the disposition in reservoir. This is particularly apparent with water-soluble drugs. And then, nagkakaroon din ng reduced serum albumin levels can be problematic if several protein-bound drugs are consumed and compete for the same protein molecules. Next is yung condition such as yung dehydration and hypoalbuminemia and decreased drug distribution and result in higher drug levels in the plasma. When this condition exists, kailangan ng lower dosage kasi hindi na kaya ng hindi na matitik ng katawan. So in short, pag matandaan na, yung mga older adults ay nagkakaroon ng maraming taba, and then nagkakaroon sila ng less water, less protein, and weaker circulation. So this means drugs may stay longer in the body and become stronger, increasing the risk for side effects and toxicity. Next is proceed naman tayo sa metabolism. When we say metabolism, di ba naturo sa atin na karaniwang pinakamahalagang organ ay yung liver sa pag-metabolize ng gamot. Di ba kapag tumatanda naman is nagkakaroon na tayo ng major problem. Kumbaga yung mga major organ natin is unti-unti nang humihina. So yung isa yon, liver yung isang nadidecrease sa function niya. So sabi nga dito, the liver decrease in size and function with age, and hepatic blood flow decline by 4 to 5% between the ages of 25 and 65 years old, di ba? So this could affect the metabolism of some drugs such as kagaya ng antibiotics, cimetidine, chlordiazoxide, digoxin, lithium, mepardine, nortriptyline, and quinidine. So yun nga, may mga drugs na dahil sa nagkakaroon ng decreased function ng liver, hindi na niya ma-metabolize yung mga drugs na yun. So, yung liver sa older adults is mas mabagal na siya nagtatrabaho and less effective na nga, kagaya ng sabi ko. So, yung mga drugs na matagal mag-breakdown, at tumataas yung toxicity nito, especially with drugs depend heavily on the liver metabolism. So, yun nga, kapag matanda na and marami na ding gamot na tinitik, sabay-sabay na, nahihirapan ng ma-metabolize yung mga gamot sa liver, kaya nagkakaroon ng severe toxicity. Next is yung excretion naman. So sa excretion, di ba alam naman natin na kidney yung isang responsible dito. So kagaya ng liver, humihina din yung kidney natin kapag tumatanda na tayo. So sabi dyan, the renal system is primarily responsible for the body excretory function and among the activities in the excretion of drugs. So kapag humina na yung kidney, mas matagal mag-i-stay yung gamot sa body. And it can cause severe adverse effect and toxicity din. And then, yun nga, the implication of reduced kidney efficiency are important. Drugs are not quickly filtered from the bloodstream and are present in the body longer. So, the biological half-life or the time necessary for half of the drug to be excreted can increase and as much as 40% increase the risk for adverse effect or drug reaction, adverse effects. Sorry. Next is yung altered pharmacodynamics naman. So, ang pharmacodynamics is yung, sabi sa atin is yung how drug affects the body. So, some of the known differences in older adult response to drugs include increased myocardial sensitivity sa anesthesia. So, nagkakaroon ng sensitivity sa anesthesia ang myocardial. And then, dahil doon, pinapataas niya yung risk of stronger or unexpected effects. And then next is yung CNS. Nagkakaroon siya ng sensitivity sa narcotics, alcohol, and bromides, leading para mag-cause ng confusion, drowsiness, or other side effects. And then, in short, older adults have slower drug metabolism metabolism and clearance, altered drug distribution, and greater sensitivity to many drugs. So kaya kailangan natin i-lower yung doses and yung longer dosing intervals and careful monitoring of course para ma-avoid yung side effects and toxicity. So kailangan nating ma-monitor lagi yung mga gamot na iniinom, especially ng mga older people. Next is yung increased risk for adverse effect reaction. So the risk of adverse effect reaction to drug is so high in older people that some geopharmacologists suggest that any symptom in older adult be suspected as being related to drug until prove otherwise. So the following are some general factors to remember in regards to adverse reaction. So first, yung the signs and symptoms of adverse reaction to a given drug may differ in older person. So yun nga. So kumbaga dito ay hindi na katulad ng sa bata yung sa matanda. Kumbaga magkaiba yung binibigay na symptoms and signs sa bata, iba yung sa matanda. So kailangan ng careful monitoring. At saka yung prolonged time may be required for an adverse reaction to become apparent on older adults. So minsan yung mga adverse effect daw is sa matatanda is hindi agad lumalabas. And then, an adverse reaction to drug may be demonstrated even after the drug has been discontinued. So, halimbawa, may tinetake kang gamot. So, kapag discontinue mo yun, bigla na agad lalabas dun yung adverse effect. Pwede rin namang hindi agad. And then, adverse reaction can develop suddenly even with a drug that has been used over for a long time period without problems. So yun, pwede pa rin magkaroon agad ng adverse effect kahit na matagal mo na siyang ginagamit. The risk of adverse drug reaction is high in older adults because of age-related changes in pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics. So yun nga, dahil nga nagkakaroon ng changes especially sa katawan at the way mag-metabolism, mag-excrete ang matatanda at nagkakaroon sila ng increased toxicity and adverse effect. Ayan.
So, next is the promoting the safe use of drugs. So, dito, since older adults ang gagamit, importante natin na alam kung ano ang tamang paggamit at pagte-take nito. So, in 1991, Dr. Mark H. Beers et al. Published a paper that identified drugs that carry high risk for older adults. So, dito, may papakita akong example or yung ginawa ni Dr. Mark H. Beers. So, next. So, medyo blurred lang siya, pero i-zoom nyo lang or pwede nyo rin siyang makuha sa book kasi nandoon lang siya. Ayan. Is reviewing necessity and effectiveness of prescribed drug. So, dito, since alam naman natin na habang tumatanda ang isang tao, nagbabago rin ang paraan ng pagtanggap ng katawan sa mga gamot. And dito, mababanggit yung mga guide na makakatulong para ma-assure na okay at tama yung pag-take ng gamot. So, meron tayo dito mga questions or guide questions before ipainom yung isang gamot sa isang older adult. So, first, why is the drug ordered? So, bakit inireseta ang gamot? Kailangan suriin kung kailangan talaga ito ng pasyente. Iwasan ang sobrang daming gamot na maaaring magdulot ng iba pang complications. If hindi naman siya ganun kailangan, pwede tayong mag-contact ng physician. And next is the smallest possible dosage ordered? Tama ba ang pinakamaliit na dosage? So, ang mga nakakatanda kasi ay mas sensitibo sa epekto ng gamot. Kaya mas ligtas na or mas safe na magsimula sa mababang dosage at dahan-dahang i-adjust kung kinakailangan pa ng isang older adult. Third, is the patient allergic to the drug? May allergy ba ang pasyente? Kasi baka mamaya, allergy pala sa patient, mas mag-cause siya ng complications sa isang adult. Mahalaga na itanong or i-record ang lahat ng possible allergies ni patient bago magbigay ng isang gamot. And then fourth, Can this drug interact with other drugs, herbs, or nutritions or supplements that are being used? So, ikaapat, tinatanong dito na maaari bang ikum, ah, maka maka-interact ang gamot na ito sa ibang iniinom na gamot na herbal or supplements. Kasi karaniwan maraming gamot ang iniinom ng matatanda and more on mas herbal sila. So kaya dapat laging suriin kung ano ang posibilidad na drug interaction na maaring kasama. And then fifth, are there any special instructions accompanying the drug administration? So, kung may kasamang special na tagabilin ba ang pag-inom na gamot? Halimbawa, dapat ba itong kasabay ng pagkain or before meals or even after meals? So, dapat alamin natin ang ganong way para mas alam natin para mas makuha natin yung tamang effect ng isang gamot. Or alamin din natin kung dapat bang iwasan ang mga alak, kape, at habang iniinom yung gamot na yun. So, 6. Is the most effective route of administration being used? So, tinatanong dito kung ginagamit ba ang pinaka-epektibong paraan ng pagbibigay ng gamot or yung ruta. It may be oral, oral, IV. So, pumili ng paraan na madaling sundin ng pasyente, gaya nga ng oral, ang most common natin sa patient. Next is promoting safe and effective administration. So, dito sinasabi na the most common way to administer drugs is orally. And yes, since older adult ang mga patient natin, mas madali or mas simpleng gawin ang pag-inom ng gamot orally, so through mouth. It can be in the forms of tablets, capsules, liquids, powders, elixirs, spirits, emulsions, mixtures, and magmas. So, since simple lang ito, meron pa rin tayo ilang problema na maaaring makaapekto sa oral administration ng gamot. So, first is yung dry mucous membrane. So, kapag tuyo ang bibig ng pasyente, maaaring mahirapan silang lumunok ng gamot. So, we need to stay hydrated. So, kailangan natin ng madaming tubig na inumin para hindi siya mag-dry. And next is expelled from the mouth. May mga pagkakataon na iniluluwa o nailalabas ng pasyente ang gamot, lalo na kung hindi sila komportable o mahirap lunukin ang gamot. So, di ba, ang mga matatanda naman, may ilang matatanda na makulit na painumin ng gamot. Ang iba, itinatago mo na sa bebek, tas bago iniluluwa. So, make sure natin na naiinom ng ayos. And then, third is to dissolve in the mouth. May mga gamot na madaling matunaw sa bibig bago pa ito malunok, na maaaring magdulot ng hindi magandang lasa at maging dahilan para hindi ito inumin ng pasyente. So, make sure natin na naiinom ng mga patient natin yung gamot. Next is to ensure that oral medications achieve full benefit, encourage good oral hygiene, ample fluids, and proper positioning to facilitate swallowing. And the next is enteric-coated and sustained release tablets should not be crushed. So, sinasabi dito na kasi ang enteric-coated tablets natin ay may mga protection upang hindi makasira sa ating tiyan and makarating sa bituka bago matunaw. So, kung dudurugin, mawawala ang protection at maaari siyang magdulot ng irritation sa ating tiyan. And yung ang sustained release tablets naman ay ginawa na para dahan-dahan ilabas ang gamot sa katawan. Kapag nadurog ito, biglang ilalabas ang lahat ng gamot at maaaring magdulot ng overdose or side effects. So, make sure na hindi kung ano yung gamot, kung ano yung instructions na nakalagay sa gamot, make sure na susundin natin yon. And the next, capsules are not to be broken, open, and mixed. So, yun nga, since may protection nakasama ang ibang mga capsules para hindi makasira sa ating tiyan. And then next is combining the medication with foods and drinks. So, ang paghahalo ng gamot sa pagkain yun, example nga is yung apple juice, applesauce and juices. So, ito ay nakakatulong para mas madali at mas masarap inumin ni patient. Nakakaiwas din ito sa irritation ng tiyan. Ngunit, problema ito kung hindi mauubos ni patient yung applesauce or yung juice na pinaghaluan natin ng gamot. Dahil, ibig sabihin, hindi niya nainom ang buong dosage ng gamot kapag hindi niya rin naubos yung applesauce or yung juice na ibinigay natin. And next, if no alternative route can be used and the suppository form must be given, a special effort must be made to ensure that the suppository is not expelled. So, kung walang ibang paraan para maibigay ang gamot, kinakailangan talaga gamit ang suppository form. Kinakailangan ito ng special na pag-aalaga upang matiyak na hindi mailuluwa or ma-expel ni patient dahil kapag nailuwa or nilabas agad ang suppository, hindi ito ma-absorb ng ating kawan or hindi magte-take effect yung gamot na ininom natin. And then, may mga pagkakataon din naman na kailangang intramuscular or subcutaneous administration of drugs kapag kailangan or kapag kailangan agad ng immediate results. Then, occasionally, intravenous administration of drugs is necessary. Yes. Next is to providing a patient teaching. So, the nurse should assess the patient's risk for medication errors, and plan interventions to minimize those risks for older people. So, syempre, since matatanda, as a nurse, responsibility natin na mainom ng ayos ni patient yung gamot. So, para maiwasan natin yung medications error, kailangan natin magplan ng mga interventions. So, upang maiwasan ang mga panganib, may mga detailed descriptions about gamot. Outlining the drug's name, pangalan ng gamot, the dosage, schedule of ng gamot, route of administration, action or epekto ng gamot. Kailangan alamin din natin yung special precaution and yung mga incompatible foods or drugs and the adverse reaction. For example, sa scheduling ng gamot, maaaring may lagayan na ganun si patient na may label na Monday to Sunday. Then, next is yung color-coded dosage schedule. Yan. For example, madami yung gamot na tinetake si patient. May pang umaga, may pang gabi. So, pwedeng color pink sa umaga, and then sa gabi naman yung color yellow. So, in that way, mas mabilis malalaman or madidistinguish yung gamot na dapat sa pang umaga and pang gabi. Next is the medication labels with large prints and capitals. Yes, para madaling makita, lalo na yung may mga older patients na may malabo na paningin. And then, during every patient-nurse visit, the nurse should review the patient's medication schedule and new symptoms para mas alam natin kung nagte-take effect pa ba yung isang gamot or hindi na sa ating patients. Alternatives to drugs. So, it is crucial that drugs be used cautiously and that the benefits and risks of drugs be weighed to ensure they are resulting in more good than harm. So, dito sinasabi na ang gamot, kailangan natin siyang gamitin ng ayos and dapat safe. And once na ininom yung gamot, dapat ma-make sure natin na mas mataas yung benefits ni patient na makukuha sa gamot kaysa sa harm. And then, may mga instances din naman or conditions na hindi agad kailangan ng gamot. At sabi dito, sometimes lifestyle changes can improve conditions and eliminate the need for medication. Yes, pwedeng ibahin muna natin ang lifestyle ni patient if kaya pang daanin sa ganun, hindi agad gamot. Next is the alternative and complementary therapies provide new avenues for treating health conditions. So, often alternative therapies can replace the need for drugs or enable lower dosages of drugs to be used. Next.
So, next is pumunta naman tayo sa review of selected drugs. So, unang-una nandiyan dyan yung analgesic. So, yung analgesic is alam naman natin for pain relief. So, under ng analgesic, we have aspirin or under ng NSAID or yung non-steroidal anti-inflammatory disease. So, anti-inflammatory drug. So, ito yung ang aspirin, siya yung pinaka-widely used gawa ng kanyang effectiveness sa pain and syempre low cost and budget friendly lang din. And then older adults are more sensitive, leading a higher risk of side effects. So, yun nga, 'di ba, napag-usapan natin kanina na yung mga older adults is sensitive na sa mga gamot, kaya sila yung mataas na risk sa side effects. So, yung mga side effects na pwede lang ma-experience pag nag-take sila ng aspirin is yung GI bleeding, and it can cause iron deficiency anemia. And then, yung mga preventive measure na pwedeng gawin is yung use of buffer or enteric coated forms and avoid taking the aspirin on a empty stomach. So, wag nating iinumin dapat yung gamot na to kapag walang laman yung ating tiyan. So, dapat is kumain muna. Another side effect, nandiyan yung insomnia from caffeine containing products gaya ng anacin and florinal. And then, CNS disturbance then in patient with poor renal function, nandiyan yung dizziness, tinnitus, stiffness, and confusion. Sa renal irritation, nagkakaroon din from suppositories, and then added sodium intake from sodium salicylate can lead to caution in low sodium diets. Next is yung acetaminophen. Popular siya na gamitin for mild to moderate pain lang, and recommended siya for osteoarthritis. Lacks anti-inflammatory effect but safer in initial choice. So, ang dosage limit lang niya is less than 4,000. So, dapat hindi tataas sa 4,000 mg per day. Kapag pag tumaas yun, nandiyan sa risk, pag tumaas yun, nagkakaroon ng irreversible liver damage. Yan tinatawag nating hepatic necrosis. And then yung long-term use at lower doses naman, it can cause elevated liver enzyme. So, adjust dose in patient with liver impairment. So, nakadepende naman sa physician. So, kailangan natin sundin yun. And then, caffeine or sodinoperin containing products can cause insomnia, kagaya dun sa aspirin. And then, it can cause fall result in blood glucose test. And then, patient with renal or liver disease are at a higher risk for toxicity. And next is opioids. So, sa opioids, meron tayong short-acting and long-acting. So, yung short-acting natin, sila yung mga first choice, gaya ng codeine, fentanyl, meperidine, morphine, and oxycodone. Sa long-acting naman, later choice yan. Sila yung mga sustained-release fentanyl, morphine, and oxycodone. So, risk in older adults is pwede magkaroon ng respiratory depression, constipation, nausea, and vomiting, sedation, lethargy, weakness, confusion, and falls, and yung dependency risk. And then, nagkakaroon din ng urinary retention kapag nagtitake ng opioids, especially kapag yun nga, merong prostate enlargement or renal impairment. And also, tandaan natin na yung meperidine na gamot is siya yung pinaka least preferred na gamot kasi siya is higher risk for toxicity reaction due to renal excretion. So, yon. Sa nursing responsibilities natin, assess the symptoms of pain carefully for its underlying cause. So, dapat ma-assess natin yon as a nurse or as a future nurse. And then, next is yung explore non-pharmacologic means kagaya ng to manage pain, kagaya ng relaxation exercises, massages, warm soaks, and diversional activities. So, kung kaya naman ma-relieve yung pain through that is pwede namang subukan natin, and wag natin agad basta-basta bigyan ng gamot. And next is observe for signs of infection other than fever. Kasi kapag nag-take ka ng acetaminophen and aspirin, it can mask the associated infection or associated fever infection. True, it can mask associated so kumbaga parang hindi niya, kumbaga inatatakloban niya or hindi nakikita agad yung infection. Ano daw? Kumbaga, next is yung observe for sign of infection other than fever. Since kapag nag-take ka ng acetaminophen at saka aspirin is because yung gamot na to is next is observe for sign of infection other than fever. Since nga yung pag nag-take ka ng acetaminophen at saka aspirin is namamas niya yung underlying or associated infection ng fever. And then is begin with the weakest type and dose of analgesic. So sa lahat naman ng gamot, lagi naman ganyan ang paalala sa atin, lower dose muna or yung weakest type muna bago sa pataas. And then if there has been a known or suspected overdosage of any drug from this group, refer the patient for emergency help at once even though symptoms are present. Signs of kasi yung signs of poisoning is hindi siya agad nag-a-appear for several days, pero yung liver damage is pwedeng nag-occur na. And then dahil nga nagkakaroon ng pwede magkaroon ng bleeding and delay clotting and delay clotting times can result from long-term aspirin use. Observe for signs of anemia, bleeding, and altered hemoglobin and prothrombin time. Next is yung ating antacid naman na gamot. Caused by decreased gastric acid secretion and intolerance to fatty and fried foods. So, yung antacid, commonly used siya for relief lang din. The nursing consideration is assess for reason for antacid use. So, yung antacid kasi is OTC siya. So, yung iba is, kumbaga is, naaabusado or naaabuso nila yung paggamit sa antacid sa mga gamot na OTC. So, pwede magkaroon silang problema doon. So, indigestion symptom may mas serious condition kagaya ng gastric cancer or ulcer, cardiac disorder can mimic indigestion, and then chronic use may lead to require diagnosis evaluation. Then, drug interaction and risk, antacids and drugs and can interact with other medication and adverse effect by type. So, kapag nag-take ka ng antacid together with sodium bicarbonate, pwede magkaroon ng hypernatremia and metabolic acidosis. Kapag nag-take ka ng merong magnesium containing, pwede magkaroon ng diarrhea and electrolyte imbalances. And then kapag sa calcium carbonate naman, pwede magkaroon ng hypercalcemia, constipation, and renal problems. And then kapag may aluminum hydroxide naman, pwede magkaroon ng hyperphosphatemia with prolonged use. And then use of antacid cautiously and only when necessary. Yun laging paalala sa mga gamot na OTC. Huwag natin kakalimutan. Yun, nursing responsibility during assessment, as specifically about the use of antacid para nga hindi tayo magkaroon ng mga toxicity or adverse effects sa paggamit ito para hindi maabusado. So, alamin natin kung saan ba talaga nila gagamit at kung kailangan na ba talaga nila. And then, avoid administering other medication within 2 hours of administration of an antacid unless ordered para ma-prevent natin yung antacid from intervening with drug absorption. Next is, kailangan i-monitor daw yung bowel elimination. Kasi yung constipation can result from the use of aluminum hydroxide and calcium antacid. And the diarrhea can occur when magnesium hydroxide combination are used, kagaya ng sabi kanina. And then advise patient who are on sodium restricted diets to avoid using sodium bicarbonate as antacid. Next is punta naman tayo sa anti-anxiety drugs o yung anxiolytics. So, ang mga cause daw na kung bakit nagkakaroon ng anxiety is pwede yung financial worries, illness, crime, death, and other life problems. So, ang mga gamot natin example dyan is yung benzodiazepines. So, siya ay CNS depressant. Short-acting na gamot, yan, nandiyan dyan yung alprazolam, eszozulam, lorazepam, oxazepam, and temazepam. Long-acting naman is yung chlordiazepam oxide, clonazepam. Basta yan, basahin nyo na lang. And yun, common side effects nila is yung dizziness, unsteady gait, drowsiness, slurred speech, confusion. And then, less common side effects nila is yung abdominal cramps, rapid heart rate, sweating, light sensitivity, seizure, and hallucination. So, pag nagtetake ka din ng mga ganyang gamot is nagkakaroon din ng withdrawal effects or yung insomnia and withdrawal effects and withdrawal effects gaya ng insomnia, irritability, and nervousness. So, yung withdrawal effects, yung basta-basta na lang tinigil yung gamot. So, hindi dapat ganon. So, not recommended siya for older adults kasi nga higher siya sa mga next is not recommended for older adults, and then yung meprobamate is risk siya for of dependence at kailangan siya ng slow withdrawal if used long term. So hindi dapat basta-basta itinitigil kasi nga pwede mag-cause ng adverse effect. And then yung diphenhydramine and hydroxyzine is kailangang i-avoid due to adverse effect in older ages. So hindi basta-basta siya ginagamit. Next is yung nursing responsibility. Make sure natin yung non-drug approach are tried first before prescribing anti-anxiety medication, and retry them even if they were not effective before. So, pwede namang magkaroon nga naman ng counseling, ganon, kausapin muna yung patient, and wag basta-basta agad bibigyan wag basta-basta agad mag-prescribe ng anti-anxiety, kung kaya naman. Then, since this drug may cause constipation, encourage a diet that supports regular bowel movements and keep track of elimination patterns. And then, check for nutritional intake and body weight to ensure eating is not reduced by drowsiness or stomach discomfort. And then, warn patient to be careful with grapefruit. Then next is warn the patient to be careful with grapefruit kasi yung mga grapefruit ay pwede niya mapataas yung drug levels in the body and pwede mag-cause ng toxicity or adverse effect. And then explain that it may take several days before the medication start working and its effects may continue for days after stopping. And then advise natin patient na avoid yung alcohol while taking this drug para malimit yung caffeine and to limit the caffeine consumption para hindi magkaroon ng adverse effect or toxicity. Next is yung antibiotics. So, yung antibiotics natin, alam natin para sa mga infection yan. So susceptibility to infection. So, age-related immune system decline plus higher prevalence of chronic diseases. So, leads to greater infection risk in older adults. So, yung antibiotic resistant, nagkakaroon kasi may mga older adult tayo na hindi minsan tinatapos yung antibiotics. So, nagkakaroon ng antibiotic resistant. So, overuse has contributed to resistant bacteria. Resistant strain kagaya ng Streptococcus pneumoniae. So, mga yon is resistant din sila sa penicillin, macrolides, doxycycline, trimethoprim, sulfatamazole, second and third generation cephalosporin. So, yung antibiotic kasi, kaya yan is, kung mapapasin natin sa mga pharmacy, hindi siya basta-basta binibigay ng walang reseta. Kasi nga is iniwasan natin yung magkaroon ng resistance yung katawan natin kasi baka sa pagtagal ng pag-take natin yun, wala nang tumalab na antibiotic sa atin. Especially sa matatanda. Kasi yun, minsan matitigas nga ang ulo, hindi na nila nasusunod. Kapag sinabi 7 days, ay hindi na nila natatapos. So pag nakaramdam sila na feeling nila okay na sila, tinitigil na nila. Then yung Streptococcus pneumoniae, major cause niya ng pneumonia, meningitis, and sinusitis. Secondary infection from antibiotics, nagkakaroon ng oral thrush, colitis, vaginitis, and cause discomfort and complication. And then specific drug concern, vancomycin and aminoglycoside, risk siya sa hearing loss and renal failure, and kailangan ng required renal function monitoring. And then yung fluoroquinolones, risk for hyperglycemia and prolonged QTc intervals, and we should avoid in patient with prolonged QTc or an antiarrhythmics. And then cephalosporins may give false urine glucose test result. And then antibiotics, again sabi ko, may be used cautiously and selectively in older adults to balance benefits with risk. Next is yung nursing responsibility para sa antibiotics. So, ensure that culture are obtained. So, di ba naturo sa atin na kailangan magkaroon muna ng culturing o yung kinukutsyon muna yung bacteria para malaman kung ano specific na antibiotic yung ibibigay para mabilis yung paggaling. And then, administer antibiotic on a regular schedule to maintain a constant blood level. Reinforce patient that they should not skip doses. Yun nga. And kapag kailangan tapusin, tatapusin. And then consider developing a medication chart or calendar to assist the older patient in remembering to administer the drugs. So kasi mahalaga na tinatapos natin yung pag-take ng antibiotics para nga hindi tayo maging resistant doon, or yung para yung matatanda hindi maging resistant doon. And then observe for signs of superinfection which can develop with long-term use of antibiotics. Next is yung anticoagulants naman. Anticoagulants para ma-prevent yung clotting. Ayun. And then commonly prescribed for thromboembolic disorder, heart attack, stroke, coronary disorder, post-op surgery, prophylaxis, and mitral valve replacement. So, ang risk niya, pwedeng mapanarrow yung therapeutic range and high risk of bleeding in older adults. Then common drugs, heparin for rapid anticoagulation and warfarin or common for long-term prevention. So yung heparin natin is binibigay siya through IV and sub-Q, and then warfarin natin is oral. And then yung dalawang gamot na yan is na-prevent niya yung new clot formation but do not dissolve existing clot. So yung adverse effect niya specifically yung heparin, nabablock niya yung eosinophilic response to ACTH and insulin. So, yung long term niya can cause or can lead to risk for osteoporosis and spontaneous fractures. Nursing responsibility. Ensure that patients using anticoagulant have their prothrombin time or PT and then international normalized ratio monitored. So, mahalaga yan para sa nagtatake ng heparin, and discuss the recommended frequency with the physician. Then next is age-adjusted dosage may be prescribed. So i-consult sa physician, and then administer anticoagulants at the same time each day to maintain a constant blood level. And then observe for sign of bleeding. Teach natin ang patient to observe for the sign, and then educate natin yung patient about the need for careful diet. And many herbs interact with anticoagulants, so kailangan natin din sabihin yan. And then keep vitamin K readily available sa antidote when patient are receiving anticoagulants. So yung vitamin K para sa antidote siya ng warfarin, and sa heparin naman ang antidote niya is protamine sulfate. And then advise natin ng patient na gamitin to avoid using aspirin at yung aspirin kapag nagtitake na anticoagulant kasi pwede siya mag-interfere with platelet aggregation and can cause bleeding. Next is yung anticonvulsant para sa mga seizure. So, yun nga, pwedeng maging cause ng seizure daw is epilepsy history, hypoglycemia or yung mababang sugar, electrolyte imbalance, injury, infection, drug reaction. So, management, i-treat natin yung underlying cause, may eliminate seizure and avoid need for anticonvulsant. So, kapag nalaman yung mismong cause ng seizure is pwedeng hindi na gumamit ng anticonvulsant. Then comprehensive assessment and diagnosis testing are essential. Anticonvulsant may be used alone or in combination to maintain effective blood levels with minimal side effects. So risk in older adults, higher risk of drug toxicity, and kailangan require cautious use kasi nga mataas ang kanyang drug toxicity. And then prepared anticonvulsant sa mga matatanda is yung carbamazepine, lamotrigine, valproate, gabapentin. And then least prepared is yung phenobarbital and phenytoin kasi siya is meron siyang high risk of side effects. Nursing responsibility, observe for an inquiry about possible side effects from this drug, and then assess the drugs can depress psychomotor activity, ensure natin yung patient has adequate physical activity, and then be aware that this drug can worsen any existing liver and or kidney disease. And then yung mga anticonvulsant natin is hindi na dapat basta-basta i-discontinue, and then advise patient to avoid grapefruit and grapefruit juice when taking this drug kasi pwede maka-interfere, pwede mapagal yung absorption. And then anticonvulsant can aggravate existing glaucoma, coronary artery disease, and then prostate disease. And then next is yung sabi daw is yung some anticonvulsant can cause photosensitivity. Next is yung ating antidepressant. So depression increase with age. So ang major diagnostics ng ito yung major diagnostic ito yung major psychiatric diagnosis sa mga older adult, yung depression. So ang depression pwede siyang dahil sa struggle with throughout the lives or the new symptoms in response to the life circumstances that they face now. So sa mga older adult, yun yung pwedeng maging cause ng depression. So nandiyan dyan classes of antidepressant, basahin nyo na lang yan. And then nursing responsibility, assess factors contributing to depression. So kagaya ng mga assess factor for the nursing responsibility, assess natin yung factors contributing sa depression para ma-prevent natin ma-depress si patient. So kausapin natin lagi mga ganon, comfort natin ganon, and explore the use of other therapies in addition to antidepressant to improve the mood. And the next is ensure that the lowest effective dosage of the drug para ma-prevent yung risk for adverse effect, and then be aware that the dosage adjustment may be needed, and then observe for or ask about and report the side effect including diaphoresis, urinary retention, indigestion, constipation, hypotension, blurred vision, difficulty voiding, increased appetite, weight gain, photosensitivity, and fluctuating blood glucose level. Yon. At saka yung dapat alam natin yung dizziness, drowsiness, and confusion can occur sa mga older patient and can increase the risk of fall. And then advise natin ang patient to use sugarless means, ice chip or saliva substitute to improve these symptoms. And then monitor oral health closely because dry mouth can increase the risk of dental diseases. And then some antidepressant daw is need to be discontinued gradually. So advise patient not to abruptly stop taking the drug kasi pwede siya mag-cause ng adverse effect then. And then observe patient for worsening of depression symptoms or suicidal thinker or behavior. Bring this pending to the physician attention immediately kasi pwede yung so masama yun kapag wag natin babaliwalain yun kapag ang mga patient natin na nasa psychiatric ay nagsasabi na gusto ko na mamatay, ganon kasi suicidal yung thoughts nila kasi sila ay nadidepress. So kailangan lang nila ng kausap and then tulungan natin sila para makope yung kanilang problema, and then report natin agad sa physician para dahil ang physician alam niya ang dapat gawin. Next is yung anti-diabetic drug. So yung nagkakaroon ng dosage adjustment based siya sa weight, diet, and activity level. And then yung drug categories, insulin can lead to challenge with self-injection, arthritis for vision, cognitive decline, and then sulfonylureas used if some insulin is still produced, kagaya ng basahin nyo ng example. Then caution, yung chloropromide and glyburide ay not prepared siya kasi long half-life, high risk of severe hypoglycemia. And then hypoglycemia is more common So, and then sinasabi na yung hypoglycemia daw is more common siya and dangerous sa older adults than ketosis. So, warning signs may differ, pero pwedeng yung confusion and slurred speech often the first indicators na nagkakaroon ng hypoglycemia. Nursing responsibilities, ensure natin yung that people with diabetes wear or carry identification to alert others. So, syempre kapag halimbawa ikaw diabetic tas bigla ka na lang na unconscious or natumba ganon, kailangan meron kang identification para hindi agad basta-basta anong gawin sa'yo. Alam na ikaw ay diabetic patient. For patient using insulin, examine injection site regularly. Local rectal swelling and nodule development at the injection site can indicate insulin allergy. Yun, alam naman na natin yun. And then report natin yung condition that could alter anti-diabetic drug requirements such as yung fever, severe trauma, prolonged diarrhea or vomiting, altered thyroid function, or heart, kidney, or liver disease. And then last is advise natin ang patient pa na avoid drinking alcohol kasi it can lead to significant drop in blood sugar.
Drug natin is the antihypertensive drugs. So, one of the kind of drug na ginagamit kapag may hypertensive is the diuretics combined with other antihypertensive drugs. So, diba, kapag may hypertension si patient, may mga fluid sa katawan or excessive fluid sa katawan. So, sa pamamagitan ng diuretics, nailalabas ni patient yung mga excessive fluids natin that can result to reduces blood volume and lowers blood pressure. Then, the second one is yung beta blockers. It blocks sympathetic nervous system response. So, mga example ng beta blockers is yung mga olol natin. The atenolol, metoprolol, propanolol, bisoprolol, and etc. So, meron mga side effects din si beta blockers. So, dapat gamitin natin siya with cautions. Next is yung ACE inhibitors naman. So, prevent formation of angiotensin II, which is the vasoconstrictor. So, diba, ang normal proseso ng RAAS ay isa siyang mechanism ng katawan na tumutulong mag-regulate ng blood pressure. Ang kidney ang naglalabas ng renin na nagiging angiotensin 1. And yung ACE naman natin na nasa lungs ay nagko-convert ng angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2. So, angiotensin 2 ay isang malakas na vasoconstrictor or nagpapakitid ng ugat kaya nagkakaroon ng hypertension. So, if may ACE inhibitors tayo, mabablock natin yung pag-form ni angiotensin 2, which na pwedeng para hindi maging makitid yung ugat ni patient. So, side effect nito is persistent dry cough, and kapag alternative, pwedeng angiotensin 2 receptor antagonist if cough intolerable. Example nito is yung losartan natin. And the next is yung calcium channel blockers. So, ang mechanism nito is dilate arterioles via calcium channel inhibition. So, ang contraction ng muscle ay nangailangan ng calcium entry via L-type channels. So, kapag hinarangan ang mga calcium channel, hindi makakapasok ang calcium. Then, hihina naman ang contraction ng vascular smooth muscle, which could lead to vasodilation. So, lalawak na yung blood vessel natin and mas maging ayos yung flow ng blood natin, which could lead to mas mababang blood pressure. And then, ito yung examples ng calcium channel blockers: amlodipine, diltiazem, nifedipine, and verapamil. Side effects: headache, dizziness, flushing, fluid retention, constipation, bradycardia, heart block, heart failure, and enlarged gums. Next is the other antihypertensive drugs, the alpha blockers, angiotensin 2 blockers, or the ARBs. And we should watch for drug interactions. Drug is the anti-inflammatory drugs, non-steroidal or yung NSAIDs nating tinatawag. So ito isang klase ng gamot na karaniwang ginagamit upang bawasan ang pananakit, pamamaga, and lagnat. So sinasabi dito, ito ay commonly prescribed for arthritis in older adults, but not a first-line therapy used after acetaminophen fails. So, syempre, karaniwan sa older adults ang pananakit ng mga kasuan. Sinasabi na hindi ito first-line therapy. Bakit? Kasi according sa ACR, yung American College of Rheumatology, ang unang nire-recommend ng gamot para sa arthritis ng matatanda ay ang paracetamol or yung ating acetaminophen. Dahil mas ligtas ang acetaminophen para sa tiyan at bato. And ang NSAID is mas mataas yung risk or yung panganib lalo na sa mga older patients natin. And once na hindi na naging effective yung acetaminophen, tsaka lang tayo mag-introduce ng NSAID kay patient. So we have here the traditional NSAIDs, the diclofenac, diflunisal, flurbiprofen. Also our COX-2 inhibitors, which is yung selective NSAIDs, which is Celecoxib or Celebrex. The next are COX-2 inhibitors, which is introduced in 1998 to reduce gastric irritation. Para hindi siya mag-cause ng irritation dito sa ating tiyan. And the next is, it can inhibit cyclooxygenase 2 enzyme triggering pain or inflammation. 2005 FDA warning, which is it can increase cardiovascular risk, which is MI or stroke. Then celecoxib allowed with careful monitoring. So here's the precautions for the NSAIDs. Monitor for facial hand or leg swelling, severe stomach pain, kasi baka nagkaroon ng gastric irritation, GI bleeding, sulfa allergy warning which can cause allergic reactions. Then high-risk NSAIDs for older adults, avoid oxyfenbutazone and phenylbutazones. It is contraindicated in blood disorders, GI ulcers, dementia, glaucoma, cardiac, renal, liver, thyroid disease, and long-term use is discouraged since NSAID siya. So, high-risk NSAIDs for older adults siya. Long-term use ay hindi kailangan or dinadiscourage natin. So, the nursing guidelines, narrow therapeutic window, toxicity occurs more easily at lower doses. So, ang next drug is yung antipsychotics, commonly used to manage the delirium, agitation, psychosis in Alzheimer's disease, and schizophrenia. So, it can improve quality of life and function. Of course, since may antipsychotics natin, makakontrol natin yung pagiging hallucination or yung pag-hallucinate ni patient. It requires careful prescription and close monitoring due to serious side effects. Then next, we have classes of antipsychotic medication, the first generation and the second generation. So, sa first generation, which is yung conventional, ito yung luma, effective but may mataas na risk for EPS or yung extrapyramidal side effects or yung EPS. Pwedeng magkaroon ng muscle stiffness, tremors, or tardive dyskinesia si patient. And yung second generation naman, which is yung atypical, ito yung bago. Mas mababa ang risk ng EPS, pero meron tayong risk for metabolic side effects. Mas madalas gamitin ng atypical sa mga dementia-related psychosis. Then, so atypical antipsychotics, initially preferred for fewer side effects, yes. Katulad nga na nabanggit ko kanina, hindi mas mababa ang risk niya sa ating extrapyramidal side effects. Risk in older adults, postural hypotension, sedation, falls. It has FDA black box warning. So, since madalas gamitin ang atypical sa mga dementia-related psychosis, meron silang risk of stroke and death in dementia patient and should not be used for behavioral issues in dementia. nursing guidelines, serious side effects, yun nga yung EPS, which is yung muscle rigidity, tremors, or yung akathisia, which is yung hindi mapakali si patient, fall risk, constipation, and urinary retention in men with cholesterol-lowering drugs, aging population increasingly aware of risk of high LDL cholesterol linked to cardiovascular disease and mortality. So dito, ang pangunahing target dito is mapababa ang ma-lower LDL and raise HDL. Dahil malinaw na ang pagbaba ng LDL ay nangangahulugan na pagbaba ng risk sa atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, and ang pagtaas ng ating HDL ay desirable, pero ang modern evidence at guidelines ay nakatutok lamang sa pagpapababa ng ating LDL, which is yung ating main goal. Next, therapy is individualized based on patient profile, yes. So, lahat naman ng patient is individualized talaga. And then, start with non-pharmacologic interventions. So, next, drug classes, statins, niacin, bile acid resins, fibric acid derivatives, and the cholesterol absorption inhibitors. The nursing guidelines assist patients in implementing dietary and lifestyle modification to help reduce cholesterol levels. So, dapat ayos yung diet ni patient and yung lifestyle modification. Dapat sinusunod yung mga bawal and dapat gawin. Ensure that patients receive liver functions and other necessary tests as ordered. Monitor for interactions and follow precautions for each category of cholesterol-lowering drugs as discussed above. So our next drug is the cognitive enhancing drugs. So para saan nga ba ito? Ginagamit ito upang mapabuti ang ating memorya, attention, or at iba pang cognitive function. So commonly ginagamit ito para sa may mga dementia patients. Pinapabagal nito ang pagbaba ng memorya or para hindi madali ang pag-progress ng dementia ng ating isang patient. So this is the ito mga drugs for cognitive enhancing. Cholinesterase inhibitors, we have the donepezil, galantamine, rivastigmine, and tacrine. We have also NMDA receptor antagonist, which is yung memantine. So ito yung mga common side effects naman ng cognitive enhancing drugs. So we have for GI, neuro, psych, musculoskeletal, skin, and urinary. And here's the nursing guidelines. Evaluate mental status, condition, ADLs before and during treatment. So bakit? So kinakailangan muna natin ng baseline assessment para ma-monitor kung talagang may improvement or kung hindi improvement si patient or kung hindi na nagte-take effect yung gamot or lumalala lang lalo ang dementia. And karaniwang ginagamit ang standardized tools tulad ng MMSE, which is yung mini mental state examination. Next is to monitor for GI bleeding kasi maaaring magdulot ng peptic ulcer o GI bleeding lalo na sa pasyenteng may history ng ulcer or umiinom ng NSAIDs. Kaya dapat bantay ng mga sintomas na may ganun. And next is to tacrine, regular liver function test required. Kinakailangan ang liver function test tuwing ginagamit kasi dahil dito bihira na itong gamitin ngayon at pinalitan ng mas ligtas na alternatives. Kasi delikado ang tacrine sa liver natin. Mataas ang risk for hepatotoxicity. And then reassess treatment as dementia progresses. Kasi ang ating dementia ay nagpo-progress is a progressive diseases. So it means lumalala siya over time. Kaya dapat laging i-check natin kung nagte-take effect pa ba ang gamot or kung may side effects na mabigat pa kaysa sa improvement ni patient. Next is to cardiac cautions. Do not stop abruptly. Kasi ang biglang pagtigil ay maaaring magdulot na rebound worsening ng condition o behavior. Halimbawa, mas mabilis lumala ang memory loss or confusion ni patient kapag nag-stop tayo ng agad-agad. Kung titigil, ina-advise ang gradual tapering, which is yung stepwise na pagbababa ng dose. Then, tacrine, take on empty stomach. Galantamine, take with food. Kasi it can cause irritation sa mga tiyan natin. So, next, we have here the digoxin, which is used to treat congestive heart failure, atrial flutter, or fibrillation, SVT, and extrasystole. So, para to sa ating heart naman. Use caution in older adults and those with renal impairment. Usual max dose in older adults is 0.125 mg per day. Next drug, we have the diuretics, which is commonly used for hypertension and congestive heart failure. Increase excretion of sodium, water, and sometimes potassium. So, di ba, alam naman natin na ang diuretics is nagpapalabas siya ng mga fluid. And since ang hypertension patients is may excessive fluid sa katawan, tutulungan ng diuretics na mailabas ito. Sinasabi ko, increase incretion of sodium, water, and sometimes potassium. So we have three types of diuretics: the thiazide diuretics, potassium sparing, and the loop diuretics. So we have here the nursing guidelines. Plan an administration schedule that infers please with the patient's schedule. So, ang pag-inom ng diuretics is kailangan din natin asuriin kasi baka inumin natin to ng morning na may lakad tayo. So, mas madalas ang pagiging pag-CR ni patient sa araw na yon. So, pwedeng pag wala tayong dapat hindi nakakaabala sa normal na araw ni patient. Next is the fluid and electrolyte monitoring kasi ang mga diuretics is hindi controlled or pwede niyang ilabas, it can be sodium, potassium, and water. Also, fall prevention. Latent diabetes may emerge with thiazide diuretics, and loop diuretics may cause hearing loss or which is yung ototoxicity. So, monitor patients with liver, renal disease, diabetes, gout, and pancreatitis. Regular labs is a must when taking diuretics, and be alert to interactions. Next naman is yung ating laxatives, which is constipation in older adults common due to lower peristalsis, low activity, low fiber diets, and constipating medications. So, since matatanda na nga, mas common ang constipation sa kanila. Kasi hindi na sila masyado nakakagalaw-galaw or lalo na yung mga bed rest patients natin. And low fiber diets na rin. And sometimes, yung mga gamot nila, it can cause constipation na rin. So, use non-pharmacologic methods first bago tayo mag-proceed sa paggamit ng laxative drug. And then, if laxative are needed, use selectively based on mechanism and patient condition. So, we have types of laxatives. We have the bulk firmers, stool softeners, hyperosmolar agents, stimulants, and lubricants. So, ito, 5 types of laxative is may kanya-kanyang way of pagpapasmooth or process ng ating. So, we have here the nursing guidelines. Focus on prevention through diet, hydration, and activity. So, diba, minsan naman ang nagkakos ng constipation natin is kulang sa water, sa activity. We can exercise regularly. Then, always assess thoroughly before recommending or giving laxatives. Emphasize that laxatives are medications, not harmless. Potential for side effects and drug interaction, and hydration is key. Then next, we have here the sedatives are the hypnotics. Often are prescribed for older adults for the treatment of insomnia, nocturnal restlessness, anxiety, confusion, and related disorders. Effect depends on dose. So, kapag low dose for sedative, and high dose naman is for hypnotics. And drugs generally not preferred for older adults. So, ito yung mga drugs na hindi recommended for older adults. We have the chloral hydrate, diphenhydramine, flurazepam, hydroxyzine, clozapam, and triazolam. Also, avoid ruthine use. Ang nursing guideline natin is non-pharmacologic first. Hindi agad tayo magre-rely agad or pupunta agad sa sedative or hypnotics. If kaya pa na non-pharmacologic, dun tayo. Monitor closely kasi may chance high risk of falls, confusion, and fractures. Avoid long-term use to enhance to tolerance and dependence. Just continue gradually to avoid withdrawal symptoms. So, gradual tapering lang tayo. Sedative or hypnotics may increase the effects of oral anticoagulants, analgesics, and antihistamines. Effects of sedatives and hypnotics may be increased by alcohol, antihistamine, and phenothiazines. So, thank you. Yun lang po.